dedicated to sharing valuable insights and exploring great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally's Book Club. Civilization is perhaps the most commonplace term in our daily lives. From childhood, parents and teachers educate us to be civilized individuals. Under these expectations, you're reminded not to spit in public, watch your language, avoid rowdy behavior in shared spaces, respect elders, cherish the young, and uphold honesty. Beyond personal conduct, civilization also symbolizes national progress. You've probably heard calls to strengthen the development of spiritual civilization. But have you ever wondered why exactly is spitting considered uncivilized? What exactly is civilization? How did it emerge? Why must we become civilized people? Today's featured book, The Civilizing Process, explores these very questions. The Chinese edition spans 2 volumes. At over 500,000 characters, this substantial work was voted by the International Sociological Association as one of the 20th century's 10 most important sociological works, standing alongside classics like The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism and The Sociological Imagination. Authored by Norbert Elias, a German Jewish sociologist often called an encyclopedic scholar, Elias meticulously studied Latin, Old German, and French sources, tracing European history from the 8th to the 1800s to dissect civilization's essence and map its evolution. So what exactly is civilization? For Elias, civilization specifically denotes Western achievements, scientific knowledge, technical prowess, etiquette norms, and rational, secular worldviews developed over recent centuries. These form the Western world's proudest accomplishments, spread globally through recent centuries' international exchanges. They've shaped behavioral patterns worldwide. How then did this civilization originate? Science and rationality stand as Western civilization's brightest jewels, foundational elements recognized by both Westerners and global learners of this tradition. But in this book, Elias presents a radically different perspective. He argues that civilization's true foundation lies in human psychology and social dynamics, unrelated to scientific advancement or rational dominance. Through meticulous observation and analysis, Elias concludes that self-control forms civilization's core, driven by inner fears and social competition. You might say fear is civilization's mother, competition its father. Now let's delve into Elias's theory through 3 key concepts: self-control, fear, and competition. Firstarily, Elias emphasizes that advanced self-control defines civilized societies. Consider how children developed. This makes perfect sense. Across all civilized societies, East and West, children are expected to completely transform their natural behaviors within few years. From eating with hands to using utensils, toddlers might urinate anywhere or cry freely in lulls. But if a 20-year-old did that, people would probably call security, right? This growth journey transforms children into socially conscious, civilized individuals. Essentially, it's about becoming a self-regulated member of society. This process feels so natural that most assume self-control automatically comes with age. But Elias says that's completely mistaken. Rewind a few centuries. Adults eating with hands, relieving themselves publicly, or dueling over arguments was perfectly normal. Let's examine actual historical records. Before 14th century Europe, handkerchiefs didn't exist. People wiped noses with hands, then rubbed them on clothes. No one found this disgusting. It was standard practice across social classes. Even nobles shared communal plates, eating with bare hands without complaint. Guides would share drinking cups as a bonding ritual during meals. History records a truly fascinating incident. In 13th century Venice, a Byzantine princess caused uproar by using a fork at court. Forks were originally hunting tools. Their table use sparked scandal. Priests even condemned it as blasphemy against God. This shows medieval Europe lacked dining etiquette we take for granted. Hard to imagine now, but before 16th century, most Europeans slept naked. Servants would gossip if masters wore sleepwear, thinking they hid defects. Public bathhouses featured youths wearing only loincloths. Do you see the pattern now? Humanity wasn't born civilized. Standards constantly evolve. In 1530 emerged on civility in boys. Originally for noble boys, it became essential reading across Europe. What etiquette did it teach? Don't sniff food like pigs, pick morsels discreetly with 3 fingers, never grab. Elias notes these civilized behaviors seem crude today, but their standardization was revolutionary. Why does this matter? Because cultivating etiquette formed civilization's core. Rigorous self-control. This control manifests twofold: refined manners and disciplined psychology. Behavioral refinement includes utensils replacing hands, nightwear adoption, handkerchief use. Psychological discipline involves internalizing social expectations and shame mechanisms. Psychological discipline primarily means controlling primal urges. It's not about lunging at food when served, nor acting on hatred through violence. How do these behavioral and psychological shifts transform human demeanor? Pre-civilization chivalry meant feasting on meat torn directly from animals. But civilized society processes food beyond recognition before serving, completely transformed from its original form. Today's braised pork bears no resemblance to the live animal. The author cites Mencius, the nobleman keeps distant from the kitchen, illustrating how cultured individuals avoid witnessing animal slaughter to suppress bestial instincts. This dual purpose prevents associating humanity with brutality while mastering primal impulses. Now let's summarize civilization's core essence. Civilization's essence lies in rigorous self-restraint. Europe's millennium-long civilizing process unfolded gradually, from the 8th to the 1800s, through incremental development. Despite occasional regressions, behavioral control grew increasingly sophisticated across generations. What forces drove this millennial transformation toward self-control? Popular theories credit scientific progress and rational thinking, like containing sneezes, understanding germ theory, or food separation, hygiene practices. Elias fundamentally disagrees with this perspective. He argues civilization and scientific rationality aren't causally linked. Take loud chewing, harmless physically, but socially unacceptable due to embarrassment. Moreover, self-control emerged long before modern science and rationality. Ancient civilizations like China developed sophisticated etiquette concepts during Confucius's era, predating 17th to 18th century British science. Yet Chinese nobility emphasized ritual propriety with extraordinary detail. Attributing civilization to scientific progress seems logical post-Enlightenment, but this theory crumbles under everyday scrutiny. What truly drives civilizing behaviors then? Elias identifies 2 drivers: fear, psychological foundation, and competition, social bedrock. Let's metaphorically call fear civilization's mother, competition its father. In parents correct public behavior, like roughhousing or public urination, if told this is uncivilized, children naturally ask why, rendering abstract concepts ineffective. Real-world parenting uses different language. Mommy won't love you if, or no other kids do this. Elias emphasizes the potency of mommy won't love you threats, terror of parental abandonment, and dread of social exclusion. Without fear-induced social pressure, humans wouldn't develop behavioral restraints. Fear acts as evolutionary lever, transforming beasts into civilized beings. This isn't endorsing fear-based parenting, but acknowledging its historical role. Children's behavioral adjustments fundamentally stem from fear responses. Early civilized conduct mirrors parental expectations rather than innate morality. What fear sustains adult self-control then? This marks the emergence of a uniquely human emotion: shame and embarrassment. Parents regulate children's behavior precisely to avoid public humiliation themselves. Take loud chewing, neither harmful nor appetite affecting, yet culturally deemed embarrassing across societies. Thus, we avoid such behaviors. Children feel no shame when naked. Lions never invented clothing to cover themselves. The Bible's Adam and Eve discovered nakedness shame after eating forbidden fruit. God recognized their transgression through this awakened self-consciousness. These narratives reveal shame's crucial role in personal and civilizational development. Elias views shame as fear internalized into subconscious self-regulation. Unlike external coercion through punishment, shame operates through absorbed social codes that become self-policing. Elias famously stated, "Social consciousness predates scientific rationality. Shame reflects social awareness and peer judgment." In Chinese terms, saving face, often misinterpreted as mere competitiveness, but Elias traces face saving to fear of differentiation or inferior status within groups. By fear losing face, because it means social devaluation, fear serves as civilization's mother by tapping into human nature. Without fear-driven motivation, social conditioning loses its foundation. Now we approach civilization's ultimate truth. This societal-induced fear leads to increasingly strict behavioral and emotional control. Civilization's essence. Through what mechanisms does society instill this fear? The answer lies in competition, civilization's father. Elias identifies two dimensions of competition. First, universal competitive mechanisms transcending time and space, as enduring as fear itself. From ancient times to modern days, people compete for dignified livelihoods. Contemporary competition maintains decorum, avoiding crude conflict resolution. Public outbursts or physical alterations become social taboos. Street quarrels or brawls damage irreparable social bonds. Even with apologies, fractured relationships rarely fully mend. Dread of social disgrace becomes internalized fear. This fear gets woven into your psychological fabric, resulting in refined conduct and restrained impulses. Etiquette becomes second nature, avoiding loud voices as much as open conflicts. This explains how competitive fear drives civilizing self-control. But Elias probes deeper. What shaped this cautious civilization? Introducing competition's second dimension. Historically specific competitive environments. Different competitive landscapes birth distinct civilizational forms. Ancient China, India's competition differed from Europe's, yielding unique civilizations. Medieval and modern Europe's differing competitive contexts produced varied social norms. Modern Western civilization emerged over 2 to 3 centuries from these cautious beginnings. Its birth required unique competitive conditions, like all civilizations. Elias dedicates his second volume to analyzing late medieval to 18th century Europe's decisive role. In 1530, On Civility and Children became a European bestseller for centuries. Elias's research reveals 16th to 17th centuries as peak period for cultivating manners during Europe's civilizing process. This era saw soul eye invention, dining etiquette codification, and increasingly complex court rituals. Elias identifies 16th to 17th century Europe's novel competitive patterns as crucial for Western civilization's formation. Pre-16th century Europe operated under feudal competition, land-based wealth, and knightly warfare. Lords rewarded knights with land for military service, creating semi-independent fiefdoms. These knightly territories maintained autonomous power, frequently switching allegiances. With relatively equal power distribution, violent conflict resolution remained common. Elias describes this as decentralized free competition with balanced resources. The 16th to 17th century brought transformative changes. The money economy emerged, making currency the new measure of wealth and power. The lords gaining market advantages could hire mercenary armies, bypassing knights. This shift birthed absolute monarchies like Louis XIV's France. Monarchs consolidated unprecedented resources and authority. Nobles and bureaucrats found themselves power deficient compared to monarchs. Realizing knight-style violent competition became unsustainable, they sought royal arbitration. Meanwhile, they constantly sought alliances to amplify influence and gain royal favor. Even monarchs needed to balance court factions to maintain control. Elias identifies this as monopolistic competition era. Survival required adapting competition methods within centralized state systems. This organic system forced cooperation with rivals. Reading subtle cues replaced open conflict. Competition shifted to soft power, currying favor through diplomacy and intrigue. Violence became obsolete. Emotional restraint and social guile prevailed. Remarkably similar to modern corporate politics, wouldn't you say? Elias argues this complex rivalry birthed Western civilization's refined social codes. Thus emerged the psychological foundation for meticulous social conduct. As civilizational manifestations, courtly refinement originated with dispossessed nobles seeking royal patronage. Elegance served dual purposes, currying favor while distinguishing from upstart bureaucrats. Newly empowered middle-class officials threatened noble privileges through meritocratic advancement. Middle classes soon adopted and perfected aristocratic manners. Mastering social graces became widespread. Thus, Europe reached peak cultural refinement. Post-industrial revolution, egalitarianism dissolved royal courts but democratized etiquette. Civilized conduct permeated all societal levels as new behavioral standard. Thus, all Western European social strata became civilized. This historical process showcases social competition birthing Western civilization. Competition's paternal role in civilizational development becomes unequivocally clear. Thus concludes our exploration of civilization's origins. We've covered the book's core content. Two central theses emerge from this work. First, civilization embodies society's formative power over individuals. Parents enforce civilized behavior, fearing social ostracization for themselves and children. Though children master these norms rapidly, humanity took centuries developing them. Second, fear and competition crucially shaped civilizational development. Western Europe's absolutist monarchies created new competitive dynamics favoring royal dependence. Previously common violent confrontations between equals evolved into rigorously controlled behaviors and emotions. Thus emerged the civilized norms we recognize today. This concludes the civilizing process. Find study notes below. Until tomorrow,